What's up, guys? Welcome to July 13th as we dive into Psalm 120, a psalm for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem. I took my troubles to the Lord. I cried out to him, and he answered my prayer. Rescue me, O Lord, from liars and from all deceitful people. O deceptive tongue, what will God do to you? How will he increase your punishment? You will be pierced with sharp arrows and burned with glowing coals. How I suffer in far off Meshach. It pains me to live in distant Kedar. I am tired of living among people who hate peace. I search for peace, but when I speak of peace, they want war. Psalm 121. I look up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel never slumbers or sleeps. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps us from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. Psalm 123. I lift my eyes to you, O God, enthroned in heaven. We keep looking to the Lord our God for his mercy, just as servants keep their eyes on their master, as the slave girl watches her mistress for the slightest signal. Have mercy on us, Lord, have mercy, for we have had our fill of contempt. We have had more than our fill of the scoffing of the proud and the contempt of the ignorant. 125. Those who trust in the Lord are as secure as Mount Zion. They will not be defeated, but will endure forever. Just as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people now, both now and forever. The wicked will not rule the land of the godly, for then the godly might be content to do wrong. O Lord, do good to those who are good, whose hearts are in tune with you, but banish those who turn to crooked ways. O Lord, take them away with those who do evil. May Israel have peace. 126. When the Lord brought back his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. We were filled with laughter, and we sang for joy. And the other nations said, what amazing things the Lord has done for them. Yes, the Lord has done amazing things for us. What joy. Restore our fortunes, Lord, as streams renew the desert. Those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. They weep as they go to planting their seed, but they sing as they return with the harvest. And so that's the end for today. It's actually a much shorter day than yesterday's, but the verse that like the Bible that today's kind of like verse of the day that today is the verse of the day for today is Psalm 126 verse 5. Those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. I mean, that sounds a little bit like tears. Like, I don't think tears have ever been a good thing, to be honest. I mean, obviously there's tears of joy, but the tears tends to be a symbol of sadness, of loneliness, of like whatever like negative emotions that human heart may have. Mostly just sadness and loneliness. It's just interesting how sometimes the way I view this verse is like the effort that you put in, the effort that you the things that you do to make something work, but it comes to like sadness in a sense. It causes you a lot of pain, but when it causes you a lot of pain, is it at the end you will harvest with shouts of joy, meaning like everything will be okay. You may experience pain at the moment, but like God is like giving that assurance saying everything will be okay if you just trust me, if you just put your life into my hands. And yeah, and then this Psalm 120, 121, verse 1, where it says, I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And this reminds me of a song called Praise You in the Storm by Casting Crowns. And I felt like that's just really, I didn't know that's where it came inspired from, but yeah, I just really like that verse because it's like sometimes I feel like and I've made emphasis on this multiple times before, but it's like I feel like whenever we run into trouble, when we go through something really difficult, we tend to run to people around us. We are looking for things to fulfill our sadness, fulfill our hardships. We distract ourselves to numb our feelings and stuff. We try to it's like we try to do anything that's symbolic to like a drug. Basically, it's like, oh, I feel content for a second, but then after that wears off, you just go right back to where you were in a depressing state. And so I feel like it's hard sometimes to, I mean, it is, I don't think it is hard sometimes to sit in silence and just pray, even if you don't feel like God is hearing you. I think it's still important just to sit and just pray. I know I struggle with that many times, but I feel like I'm starting to get better at it. But it's like trusting that God is there God does care about you, that God does mourn with you. He hates, I don't know how to phrase this. He's hurting for us. He experiences the pain that we're going through. And so like trusting that God is actually hearing us, even if everything around us may say otherwise. Oh, God is not listening to you. Oh, if God had listened, why hasn't anything changed? Or if God has listened, why do you still feel this way and stuff? But like trusting, like if you start to have these doubts, if you start to have those kinds of mentality of where like, oh, I don't see instant change because I prayed, I feel like in a sense that's kind of coming from Satan, because Satan, all he wants to do is plant doubts into our hearts so that we may struggle to get us to run towards God. And so whenever you start to have these thoughts, oh my gosh, God doesn't care about me, God doesn't hear me, God apparently is like not here for me, because if he's here, then anything would be different stuff. And so it's like trusting, like whenever those voices come in, it's a hard battle, but like it's a very important battle that we have to win over Satan for. We can't fall into let those words sink into our hearts and say, oh, God doesn't care, God doesn't see, God is not a just God. Trusting that God does hear you, God does care about you, God does love you, that God, it's so weird always to think about this, like when you're in pain, is it weird to think about how God may be also in pain for you because he understands what you go through? He won't. It's like what the Bible, like one of the things that Sermon on the Mount says is like God is close to the brokenhearted, close to the people who are suppressed. Yeah, it's just like I think we all have moments in our life where it's like we doubt God. But and I think it's okay to doubt God sometimes. But don't let that doubt become your full belief of who God is, if that makes sense. It's like I can doubt, like, oh well, God do this, I don't think God is gonna do this. Or like, is he a good God and stuff? Like those are good questions. Those are genuine, authentic, raw questions that we have to ask God. But he doesn't always answer us. And so I just pray that in the midst of our difficulties, in the midst of our struggles, that no matter what, that our doubts does not become our perception, our views on who God is. And so yeah, that's just something that really stood out to me. And obviously, like, always run to God. Always run to God when hard things happen. God can reach you through other people. And I feel like that's cool, but like sometimes it doesn't always work like that. It's not always gonna work the same. So like we all realize, hey, it's okay to sit in the dark. It's okay to just pray. It's okay to just sit in silence. You know, it's like I don't know. There's just something about like sitting in your sadness, sitting in your depression, sitting in your anxiety. It just makes you feel like, I don't know. For me, at least, it's like it makes me feel you're more loved by God, because he understands what I'm going through. You don't have to. We're not worshiping a God who does. We are not worshiping a God who does not understand us. He literally created our human whole system. Not only does he not understand us, but not only does he understand us, but he also knows how it feels. It's one thing to understand, but it's another to actually live that kind of emotion. And so realizing that our God can relate to us. That God's not just watching from up high and saying, ha, 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 look at these fools, oh, ha, 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 look at these people suffering. It's like, no, that's not who God is. He is a God who's closer to us than anybody else in our life. But yeah, that's all I have to share. So may you guys go and walk with God.